Hello, Katrina. It is such an honor, and I'm so excited to have you on She Leads today. So thank you so much for joining.
Yes, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited to talk to you.
Of course. So, Katrina, you've been on 6 Broadway shows. You're also an actress in TV and film. You've been on 4 national tours. You're a singer. You play many instruments, and from a little inkling, I think your favorite may be an accordion, which, by the way, this is insane. I don't know, for my listeners, I asked her beforehand if this is a Zoom background or something in real life, and she said, no, this is real. So this is amazing. So tell me, how many accordions do you have?
Well, at present, I think there are now 35 here, and some of those are repairs that I'm doing for people.
Amazing.
Many of the others are mine that I will sell. There are some, this is fabulous rainbow one here is one that is mine that I play. And there's a few others. There's one just right here that says Main Squeeze, which is the name of my business as well.
Oh, amazing. So, okay, that's awesome. So we'll get into that. So before we even get to where you are today, tell me a little bit about you, where you grew up. Has this musical gene always been in you, or tell me a little bit more?
Yeah, so I'm from a really small town in Pennsylvania, and I have quite an extensive background of people in my family who love music and, have made music. And it was not necessarily a choice to do music. It was something that was required. And I am very grateful for that, as I do think that music opens up a creative aspect of the mind that then extends itself to all other areas of life. So, my parents had a band, and they, played in the tri-state area for all kinds of events, and we were required to take piano lessons, drum lessons, and eventually be in the band. I have 2 older brothers, younger sister. We're all very musical, and in some degree are still moving in the in the world of music or entertainment. And I'm really grateful for that. I also had a grandmother on my dad's side who toured singing gospel music with her sister playing the accordion. So this was something that was there, but wasn't necessarily the focus of my attention until more recently.
Incredible. So even from a young age, you've always loved it. It's not something where it's like being forced onto you and you're like, okay, I have to do it because my parents are doing it, and I'm kind of.
No, I would say it was definitely forced, but I would also say that it was met with open arms.
Wow.
So I think that there are worse things for your parents to make you have to do. In music, I don't want to practice. I don't want to sit down at the piano and practice. I just wanted to play. So, But,
nice. That's amazing. So then as you got older, you went to Penn State, I believe. And so tell me, when you went into college, what was that? Did you have this outlook in saying, in your career, being like, this is what I'm going to do for my career? Or what was your mindset going in, being like, eventually I'm going to have to stop and go this conventional path that stills today kind of away?
Yeah, well, honestly, I knew that I would always do music. I just didn't necessarily think I would get a degree in it, but I got offered a scholarship to play the oboe. And so I did go for that, but I actually started on a pre-med track because I've always, math and science are just gold. And I thought that maybe potentially medicine could be in my future, but in my first anatomy class with 1,500 other kids at Penn State, I learned very quickly that it was definitely a choice that would be very hard and very difficult. But I kept being drawn back into the performance, into the world of music. And I found in that first year of Penn State, where I didn't do any theater and I didn't dance, that I missed it so much. And so my second year, I then joined the music theater department and was in that world again. And so, I mean, I still feel like, I'm going to be a student the rest of my life, for sure. Penn State was the earlier part where I was finding my way. And then I went to Berkeley later and got a degree in not being the musician who's playing, but more so being the person who makes those other musicians sound really good. And that was really interesting to me. But, who knows? Maybe I'll go back and get another degree in biology or something at some point. I honestly can say that I will be a student the rest of my life, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's so great. So I listened to a podcast that you did with another person. I think it was I don't remember, Broadway Backbone, I want to say.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Bradley, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I listened to that, and so from my understanding, you actually got called into a Broadway show, like kind of halfway through Penn State. So you left and you went back, or how did that, was that true? Or?
No, actually, I left Penn State and applied to other schools, but I got a tour. And so I didn't end up going. I got a tour as a dancer, and unlike maybe the experience that a lot of people have with parents encouraging them to go to school, my parents really encouraged me to go with the dream. Like, go, you've got this. Now's the time. Do this. And, I finished my degrees later in life with my parents saying, you don't need to, but I wanted to. So my experience was a little bit maybe different than that. But yeah, I did. I went to Penn State for 2 years, then got a tour as a dancer, and then after a year of that, booked a Broadway show, and I was in it. I still actually continue to take classes from Penn State through correspondence, and I love that as well. That was great. But I got really lucky, and So and it's been like that. It is not lost on me that I have lived in New York and somehow managed to have a life here that's been okay. So
it's so incredible. So I'm a huge fan personally of Broadway. Like when I go to a Broadway show, I honestly find myself like crying because I'm just so immersed in it, and it's just like it's a beautiful experience. So I want to hear. So just talking to you is such a cool experience for me. But I want to hear, being on Broadway, tell me about that experience, because you have 8 shows a week. Or 8 shows a week, and like, how is that mentally, physically, like, how is that whole experience for you?
It is taking art to a pretty high level, and so it deserves a lot of respect, and not only for the other people around you that you're working with, but also for yourself. So doing 8 shows a week is definitely demanding, depending on the show, but I, especially in my later years doing shows, that's the time when I do my best to take care of myself, because I want to be there. I want to do all those shows. I don't want to be sick. I don't want to miss it. I want to have that experience. And, it was like that early on too. It's got a little harder to, can't go out as much at night as I'm getting a little bit older. But I just wanted to be there. I wanted to be part of it. And what a gift to make art for, a few hours of your life. You get to walk into a theater and be transported somewhere else, and in hopes that you come out with, thoughts and feelings about what you've just seen, whether you've liked it or not liked it, but you've had an experience, and that is art, and that is so beautiful. That's also, in terms of the time that we're living in right now, it's a struggle to be considered not essential. Not having Broadway up and running right now, we're on pause, and that's really hard, because art is what is, I think, really helping people in these times when we're all at home. And those Netflix shows that you're tuning into or whatever else, those are artists, those are actors who, it's like, so art is essential. So it's a little hard to be trapped. Even though I'm with my friends, it's still a little hard to be trapped. But back to your question, it's definitely it does become a job, but also I think that it should not be forgotten, that most of us that are doing this sort of thing love our jobs, and I think it's important to find the balance outside of any job you have in life. What else do you love? So, people often say, what would you say to young people who are just starting out in the business? And I would say you need to really love what you're doing, commit to it, put your heart into it, but also make sure you're not forgetting about those other things that make you who you are. What do you love? For me, I love plants. I love Volkswagens. I love pubs. Like how can I love plants. So what are my other areas of interest, and how can I also foster those so that I'm also feeling like more of a whole being, not just being on stage,
So
that's
true. Yeah. And it's so true. I think I could even apply that lesson in so many aspects of life. Like, for instance, me when I was a soccer player in college, like it's definitely this thing where you feel it is your whole identity, and you need to find other things to be like, look, I love this too, and I'm actually passionate about this as well, and this is like the whole thing is my identity. So I think that's a really valuable lesson to kind of take with you throughout your life. So you mentioned how your parents were very supportive of you following your dreams and kind of taking this passion. So what would you, like, you mentioned how you have this advice for people coming into the industry. What about those who almost don't have that support and that network behind them saying, look, like, this is, you should follow your dreams, and your passion could be your career, and just like have that mindset? How do you almost change to be able to still do it?
Sure, of course. You know, you don't know unless you try. And also, without failure, there's no success. You don't know the difference. So I really believe that, you know, if there's something you love, you have to go for it, but you need to, again, look at it through all the lenses of the ways you can make it happen. And I think, especially as an actor, you know, there's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of, you know, people, you know, you walk into a room and people evaluate you immediately, and that's a feeling. That's such a strange thing to be looked at in that way. But like, you have to find the creative outlets, you know, to navigate all that stuff, and especially if you don't have a support network. But I guarantee, you know, you'll have a support network of other actors who are going through the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
So you're going to have, you'll have I would hope that you'd have a chosen family that is the support system that lifts you up, you know, but, you know, for sure.
Yeah.
Many of my friends don't have parents that are supportive, but not involved in the arts, and don't necessarily, you know, understand the push and pull of rejection and also nailing a job and for what that is. But that's why we have our friends.
Yeah.
That's why we have our community. And it is an amazing community here. That's for sure.
Amazing. And so you mentioned how rejection is such a common thing to get, especially in that industry. And it's actually common as an entrepreneur when you're starting your own business. Yes. And you're trying to get funding and investors are telling you no, no, no. So what lessons have you learned about rejection, and like kind of how have you gone better through the years when you go into an audition? And yeah, like what lessons can you teach about just rejection in general?
I can't say it's gotten easier, because that wouldn't be the truth. It has definitely gotten harder. Mm-hmm. Now I think that I'm just more selective about, instead of just throwing a bunch of things against the wall to see what sticks, I'm more selective about where I choose to put myself for the possibility of rejection. So I'm choosier about the kinds of work that I want to do. And I do have an agent, and I more in this year than any year, I said no. Like, this is actually, I don't feel like this is the direction I want to go. So I feel like now I've started to curate, I guess, the direction I want to head. And it's not that easier.
Yeah, it's true, and it's almost like you just have to go through it, and then each time just get back up and get back up.
Exactly, and that's, you know, I think it takes, not just in the business that I'm in or that you're in, it definitely takes a good bit of determination. Yeah. But again, you don't know unless you try, and you know, we are only, like I said, we are only stronger from our failures. So I don't even like the word failure. Our disappointments, our, you know.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's a stigma behind the word, and I've talked about this on most episodes about failure, and it's so interesting how there's a stigma, and it's all like, it should purely be a learning opportunity. So I think it's such a valuable tool to kind of train your mind to focus on. So I know you've also been an understudy and kind of on standby. So one story you told on that podcast was how in the middle of a show, you were in the standby room, and the girl on stage was singing, and then in the middle, she was just recovering from laryngitis, and in the middle, you needed to come on. So I'm interested in just this, because I can almost draw a parallel between soccer and being a substitute almost, and like having and being mentally strong to go on at any moment. So I really want to hear your perspective on just this mentality aspect of being an understudy or on standby and just like waiting for your moment every show?
Yeah. I guess I don't necessarily think of it as waiting for my moment, though I know a lot of other people do. When I'm a standby, I'm in the building. There are things, standbys, swings, and understudies. So there are different ways of saying similar things in that, you may be understudying somebody in the ensemble, or you may be a swing who covers many, many people, or a standby who might be one of the people who goes on for a lead in a show.
Okay.
Yeah. And, I love it. Not everybody loves it. And if I do that for the rest of my career, great.
Wow, yeah.
But it's like getting to be a part of the fun. But not only do I get to go to work and hear the fun and often watch the fun, every so often I get to jump in and be in the fun. And that's stressful, but that's the only way to feel about it is excited. There's just, that's the only way.
Yeah.
It's just, for it to be super stressful is not helpful, I think, emotionally. Like,
Definitely.
you have to get excited about it. And yes, I've had some really crazy moments going on stage where I got hired. I'd been on a tour with a show, and I got the Broadway show, and I'd only been there 2 days. And then the lead called out, and I was the only person who was in the building. And I went on, and I literally met the actors on stage.
Wow.
During the show. Was like having scenes with these people,
Yeah.
starring in the show, meeting them on stage. And what's the point of getting stressed about it? Because that's real. That's having a genuine moment, like making art with people. So that's just exciting to me. And like I said, if I continue to do that kind of stuff, it's absolutely never, ever, ever been anything about any sort of fame or notoriety being in this industry. It's just being able to support myself and make a living at making art. That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I think that's a beautiful mentality to have. And I think what you said about stress, how that, if anything, it's only hinders your ability, even like your ability
Yeah.
once you're performing and everything. So I think that's definitely an important lesson. I love it. So on my show, obviously, I talk about being a female and a female, especially in tech and business. You see, even today, there's still a gap in the number of female founders and number of female investors who are investing in female founders and just in general. I'd love to know kind of if there's any gap at all or just anything between females, males in entertainment industry and in Broadway and things like that.
Of course.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty broad these days. And, there's a pay gap, obviously, in the entertainment industry for men and women. And that, I'm sure, I can't speak to what my colleagues, have made in Broadway shows that are huge name people. I can't speak to what they were making to tell you that sort of stuff. But yeah, there's definitely, I feel like it's shifting though. I feel like the time is now. Like it's really, I think we're moving towards a sense of equality, and I'm really excited about that. It's in me starting my own business in a fairly male driven industry. I've really been met with open arms, with a lot of people being like, "Yes, Lady Boss, Lady Boss in New York City, do this thing." There's no accordion repair shop in Manhattan anymore, and people have asked me about accordions for years, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And I'm so excited when people want to talk about like what it is to be a woman starting a business and finding your feet. And, thankfully I've not been met with too much hesitation. And, globally, I'm in touch with a number of people all over the world that do accordion repair in other parts of the world. And it's just excitement. People are so excited that a lady wants to, start something in Manhattan. But yeah, they're definitely, as a young person, I would have absolutely said there is a bit of a gap that is, interesting, because it didn't make sense to me. Obviously, my family was pretty forward thinking and pushing me to be who I want to be and do whatever I want to do. But I definitely recognize, that there has been this gap. But I feel like we're moving someplace right now, though. I feel like we're headed in the right direction, and not just for women, but you know, people in general, you know, for all kinds of communities. I feel like the awareness is key. And, you know, I don't necessarily love the term woke, but I feel like we are all awakening to, you know, a way forward that's going to be more inclusive, and I'm excited about that. So yes, to answer your question, I do feel like there has been a gap, but I have hope that we are like moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's important to talk about it and have it there in the open, and just, I think that's what raises awareness even more. And I think that's great. So about your business, so it's an accordion repair shop business. So I'm wondering, have you seen some skills that you've learned from Broadway, from being in theater and this entertainment industry? Have you any skills that you've taken to business, and like almost, I don't know, whether it's resiliency or just anything? Have you seen a parallel?
Absolutely. Resiliency is a great word. Also, determination. That is something that you have to, courage. Those are two things you have to have when you, I think, as a performer. And for sure, for example, sitting just on the floor out of the camera is a very expensive instrument that belongs to a customer. So it takes a bit of resilience to actually have somebody bring you an expensive instrument and believe in yourself enough that you can make it better. And it takes courage to open up somebody's instrument and not have fear about anything that can happen. So I'd say that those resiliency, courage, creativity, because I'm, you know, working in a medium, there are fewer accordion factories in America, so it's harder to get parts. So I have to be very creative. And in the same way that I'm creative on stage, and the way that I audition, the things that I choose to do and make myself stand out or, you know, show who I am, I have to be very creative about some of these accordions. There's one over here that's from 1902. There's no parts from 1902 available. So it takes a lot of
Definitely. Interesting. And
yes. So in terms of creativity, there are many parallels for me. So
I love it. And seems like also like trust, like having trust in yourself. Like, okay, I could do this.
Yes.
This will be
precisely.
Fun. Yeah, that's awesome. So I don't want to ask what's been your favorite Broadway musical, but I want to ask, well, if you have one,
you can ask.
Then great. But I do want to know also your favorite Broadway moment, and just like a moment in your experience that you've just felt so alive and just absolutely amazing.
Well, interestingly, people expect me to say, I had the opportunity to star as Sally Bowles in Cabaret years ago on Broadway. And people expect that I'm going to say that that's it, that's the end all be all, to walk out at the end of that show with that microphone and sing Cabaret and slam that mic down. Yes, that is definitely up there on pretty amazing things that I still can't even believe. I can't even believe I got to do that. I still can't believe it.
Amazing.
But honestly, it was another experience of being on stage and watching really beautiful work happen. So I did Warhorse at Lincoln Center, and it was my first experience being in a show with puppetry to that level. So when the horse came out on stage, there were 3 people inside the horse, and I often played dead men, like laying on stage. And I could, if I was facing up stage, I could open my eyes and look. And it was just the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen, because it involved 3 people having to live in the same space, breathe together, instinctually move without speaking, create these sounds and this energy of this horse. And it was so real. And it's a puppet. It was so real. And I was taken with it every night. And it's, you know, there I am playing a dead man with mud on my face on the floor. People always people don't think that's going to be the highlight, but doing that show was just unbelievable. I just have such great respect for collaboration and artistry from, you know, that show was amazing. But, you know, Great Comet was definitely one of the best experiences of my life. The people, the show, the music. I had an accordion. I was allowed to shave my, you know, sides of my head, dye my armpit hair, you know, hot pink. Like, that was just like a true expression of self and you know, a really gorgeous group of freaks together making this like lovely piece of art. And you know, that if I was going to say second to my Warhorse is like being on stage at the end of The Great Comet when the lights are coming down and we're like watching this one thing that represents so much, a passing moment in life. And, you know, it makes me feel like tearing up a little bit even thinking about it. But obviously hearing Josh Groban sing this beautiful show and the last few moments of it, just feeling the collective energy of being in a theater, a Broadway house where we are in the audience and we're part of the audience at that moment. And we are sharing this with people that are a foot away from us that we've never met before. And we're all invested in this moment. That is amazing.
Incredible. Yeah. I think that's it's so beautiful how you're all just joining together when this, like seeing this skill and just artistry. I think it's so beautiful. It's awesome. So, okay, as the final two questions, you mentioned it a little bit, but I just want to ask, so what is a passion or hobby that you have that's just completely unrelated to your work? So you mentioned plants, pugs, but which one would you put on the top of the list?
Whoa, that's tough. Could it be a really new interest that I'm super excited about?
Definitely.
Bees.
Oh, and what? Explain that more.
I want to have bees. I'm buying a house upstate and I want to have bees and I want to have a lot of bees. So I actually signed up for a course at Penn State on beekeeping. I've purchased all the books to build what I need to build. And also, I mean, there's the second part of it. And inside of all of these accordions, there are reeds and they have wax on them. So I may be able to harvest some of the wax. I still have to read about how much it means I'm stealing from the bees because I want to be kind to the bees. Yeah. But I'm obsessed with bees right now. Wow. And I mean, that kind of goes hand in hand with the plants. Plants are like, I try to grow things in my apartment. Got an avocado growing just down the hall here and a lemon tree behind this.
Oh my God, I love it.
So yeah, plants and bees. Those are my latest hobbies.
That's great. That's awesome. And then as a final question, I'm excited to hear this. So what is a weird or fun talent that you have that no one else really knows about? So I'm going to go first, and I'm good at blueberry throwing. So I'm going to throw a blueberry, and we'll see how this goes. But okay, so here's blueberry. All right. There we go.
Yes!
Success. It was a little bit of a messy one today, but
gosh, a weird talent. I mean, I can't show you, but I was a dancer, but I have one foot that is flat, and if there's water on the floor or anything else, I can make the most horrific sounds with my foot. I don't think I can do it. I'd probably have to stand. No, I can't do it in the floor, in my wood floor. But in the bathtub, for example, epic noises I can make with this left foot that's flat. Wow. It's like, and I don't know many other people that can do that, actually. Also, I don't know many other people that would admit how ugly their foot is and also be so proud that they can do this thing with their ugly foot.
Yeah. So, clarification, you have one foot that has a good arch and one foot that's flat? Oh, yeah. Interesting. So, and I remember you tapped for a lot of your life, right?
Yes, I did.
That's I have two older sisters, and they've tap danced their whole life up until college, and they love.
Oh, amazing! Dancing, so. Yeah, I studied with some pretty great people.
Yeah,
I still tap occasionally. I want to do another show where I get to tap. That'd be fun.
So cool. Well, Katrina, one day I hope I will see you in Broadway because I can't wait for Broadway to open up again because I love going to those shows. So. It's been so much fun having you on this show. I really appreciate your time and everything that you've taught me. So just thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. A pleasure. Anytime I get to talk to somebody and talk about accordions or Broadway or anything, a pleasure.
I love it. Thank you so much.